So, is St. Louis actually worth moving to? For a lot of people, the answer comes down to this. Do you want a place where your money goes further, your life feels easier, and you still have access to everything you need? Because that's what St. Louis offers. It's not trying to compete with the biggest cities. It's offering something different. And for the people who value that difference, it works. Now the question is this: would it work for you? There's a city in the Midwest that people are quietly moving to, and most aren't talking about it because on paper, it doesn't sound impressive. It's not Miami, it's not Austin, it's not even Nashville, but somehow the people who move there don't leave. So what's going on? Why are more people choosing St. Louis over flashier, more popular cities? Is it just about saving money, or is there something deeper that people only realize after they arrive? Because here's the truth. Moving to a new city isn't just about cost. It's about how your life actually feels once you're there. The pace, the opportunities, the day-to-day experience. And St. Louis is one of those places that completely flips expectations. In this video, we're breaking down the 5 real reasons people are making the move. And by the end, you'll know whether this is a hidden gem or a place you should avoid entirely. The first reason people move to St. Louis is simple, but it's also the one that changes everything: the cost of living. Because in most major cities right now, it feels like you're constantly falling behind. Rent goes up, groceries go up, gas goes up, and somehow your paycheck stays exactly the same. But St. Louis flips that equation. Here, what you pay for a small apartment in cities like New York City or Los Angeles can get you an entire house. Not a fixer-upper, a real livable home with space, a yard, and a neighborhood that actually feels quiet. And that shift does something most people don't expect. It's not just about saving money. It's about finally having breathing room. People talk about being able to go out to eat without stressing over every dollar and not needing 3 roommates just to survive, about having enough left over at the end of the month to actually enjoy life. And once you experience that, it's hard to go back. Because suddenly you're not working just to pay bills, you're working to build something. That's why for so many people, St. Louis isn't just a cheaper option. It's the first place where life starts to feel manageable again. The second reason people move to St. Louis and end up staying is the food and the culture. And this is where expectations get completely flipped because most people don't associate St. Louis with incredible food. But once you're there, you realize that the city has its own identity and it's strong. We're talking about places that don't feel manufactured or trendy just for social media. Restaurants that have been around for decades. Recipes that haven't changed because they don't need to. From slow smoke barbecue that rivals anything in Kansas City to local staples like toasted ravioli and St. Louis style pizza, there's a sense that food actually belongs to the city. And that creates something bigger than just meals. It creates culture. You start to notice how every neighborhood has its own personality, small family-owned spots where people get to know each other, weekend traditions, local favorites that everyone defends like it's personal. It's not about chasing the next big thing. It's about consistency, quality, and community. And for a lot of people moving from bigger cities, that's a huge shift. Because instead of feeling like just another customer, you feel like you're part of something. That's what makes people stay. Not just the food itself, but the way it connects you to the city in a way that feels real. The third reason people move to St. Louis is something most cities simply can't compete with: how much there is to do for free. Because in a lot of places, every outing costs something. Want to go to the museum? That's a ticket. Want something to do on the weekend? That's more money. But St. Louis is different. You've got places like the St. Louis Zoo, which is consistently ranked as one of the best in the country, and it's completely free. The St. Louis Art Museum, also free, massive parks, walking trails, cultural spots. You can fill an entire weekend without spending much at all. And that changes your lifestyle in a subtle but powerful way. Instead of planning around your budget, you plan around what you actually want to do. Families can go out more, friends meet up more often. You're not constantly weighing whether something is worth it. It just becomes part of your life. And over time, that freedom adds up, not just financially, but mentally, because having access to real experiences without the constant cost makes the city feel a lot more livable. The fourth reason people choose St. Louis is something you don't fully appreciate until you need it: location. Because when you look at a map, St. Louis sits right in the middle of the country, and that turns out to be a huge advantage. Driving to other major cities is actually realistic. You're within reach of places like Chicago, Nashville, Kansas City without needing a full day travel. And if you're flying, it gets even easier. Airports aren't nearly as chaotic as the massive hubs, which means shorter lines, less stress, and a much smoother experience overall. You're not spending hours just trying to get through security or fighting through crowds. But here's the part people don't expect. Being centrally located doesn't just make travel easier, it makes life feel more connected. Whether it's visiting family, taking weekend trips, or traveling for work, everything feels just a little more accessible. And when getting from point A to point B stops feeling like a hassle, you're a lot more likely to actually go. The convenience becomes part of your lifestyle in a way most people don't think about until they actually have it. The fifth reason people move to St. Louis might be the most important, and it's something you can't really measure on paper. It's the pace of life. Because in bigger cities, everything feels rushed. Traffic, crowds, long lines, constant. It creates this background stress that you don't even realize is affecting you until it's gone. And then you get to St. Louis. You still have the essentials of a city: restaurants, sports, events, things to do, but without the constant pressure. Getting across town doesn't take forever. Going out doesn't feel like a production. Even simple things like running errands feels easier. And that changes how your days feel. You're not always in a hurry. You're not constantly trying to keep up. There's space both physically and mentally. But here's what really makes the difference. It doesn't feel boring. That's the assumption people make, that a slower pace means less opportunity, less excitement, less life. But in St. Louis, it feels balanced. You can build a career, meet people, try new things, and still have time to actually enjoy it. You're not sacrificing your entire day just to exist in the city. And for a lot of people, that's the turning point. Because once life feels calmer but full, it's hard to go back to chaos. That's when St. Louis stops being a temporary move and starts feeling like home. So, is St. Louis actually worth moving to? For a lot of people, the answer comes down to this. Do you want a place where your money goes further and your life feels easier and you still have access to everything you need? Because that's what St. Louis offers. It's not trying to compete with the biggest cities. It's offering something different. And for the people who value that difference, it works. Now the question is, would it work for you? If you found this helpful, make sure to like the video and subscribe for more.